Welcome to Permission to Leap, a podcast exploring the stories of people who have brought their visions to life. Each week, I will speak to an inspiring guest and navigate the process they took to take the leap in their own lives, from the day that they first committed to the day that they landed on the other side of their leap. Permission to Leap is the spark that will push you to believe in your dreams again and make them your reality.
Today's guest is Ashley Cooper. Ashley is an inspirational speaker, author, and empowerment coach who has dedicated her life to helping others unlock their full potential. She overcame years of bullying and depression as a child with the sole mission of helping others see their divine nature. She has a gift for helping people see that anything is possible if you just believe. All areas of Ashley's life are infused with heartfelt combination of passion and compassion. Through her public speaking, writing, art, and charitable projects, she plants the seed of possibility in the hearts of those she touches. Her open and honest approach to all things healing provides a safe environment for anyone willing to let go of their story and do the inner work. Oh, hey, Permission to Leap, Bri Seeley here. Welcome to yet another amazing episode. I say this at the beginning of everything. I feel like I need to switch it up a little bit sometimes. But this week we are joined with yet another one of my brilliant women in my community, Ashley Cooper, who is a confidence mentor for female entrepreneurs. She is pretty kick-ass and also a woman that has kind of been leaping for her entire life. It is a lifestyle. It is a way of being for some of us. And welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited that you're here. Ashley and I have epic conversations every week about everything, and she's full of wisdom. So I want to talk about the point right before the like very, very beginning of the leap. So a lot of people have a really hard time with that decision. They're like sitting and they have the leap on one side and the not leap on the other side. And it's just like this tug of war. So talk to me about what that preliminary like knowing is for you and how you kind of navigate to leap or not to leap.
Right. Well, I think like one of the things that I'm always talking about with my women and predominantly the core and foundation of all my teaching is for us to really change the way we see pain and fear, right? So to be able to really reframe the way we see pain and fear. And I think most people, when they're on the cusp of making this giant leap, they get super, super scared, right? So for me, generally speaking, if there's massive expansion about to happen, and for a lot of people there can be a lot of fear because you're about to stretch comfort zones that you've never done. You're taking a leap, you're taking a massive leap, and so most people will wait until they feel comfortable to get out of their comfort zone, right? Or they wait until they're not afraid. But for me, fear is always an indication to move forward. It's an indication of where I should be going rather than where I should be holding back, and that has been enabled me, to make these massive leaps. And of course, the thing that corresponds with the fear, and on the other side is faith, right? So when you're making that leap from the unknown to the known, the thing that bridges that gap is faith, right? So to be able to hold that faith when making that leap.
Awesome. It's like you've read my book, but you haven't, but you are quoted in it. And what the quote that Ashley and I were literally just having a conversation, girlfriend to girlfriend, entrepreneur to entrepreneur. And we were talking about this very thing and how people wait until they're not fearful to take action. And the thing that Ashley shared that's in the book is that there will never be an absence of fear when you're doing stuff like this. In fact, fear will never be more present than when you're doing big things in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is the core foundation of always what I'm talking about as well, because it always breaks my heart when I see people shy away from their dreams because they feel scared or unworthy. And that's why the core foundation of everything I'm always talking about is confidence, but really it's worthiness, believing that no matter what, right, no matter what fear is present, that you're the person capable of actually fulfilling your dreams, and you're actually the woman or man or human being that's worthy of actually fulfilling your mission in this world. So I think that's a core foundation. I know that that's a core foundation of making big leaps.
So how did you this hasn't always been the case for you, right? How did you shift into this way of thinking, or was there an experience or a tipping point or something that like really helped you reframe your perspective?
Yeah, I think it's my whole life has kind of been a series of, I probably am one of the most fearful people I know. Like, I was a total scaredy cat. You know my story, Brief, but for those who don't, I was very, very bullied when I was younger, and my self-esteem was null and void. So most people will think, oh, you're born with confidence, or you have the it factor, right? But actually, confidence and worthiness can be a learned skill, and that's really what I learned. So from the time I was 8 years old, that was the first time I tried to take my life, and my mission from that moment forward really became, how can I make my way out of this and help other people? And so it was a journey. It was a process. It wasn't like I had this epiphany and all of a sudden I was like, like filled with faith and I had no fear. No, it was this continuous leaning into the pain and fear rather than the resisting of it that helped me make these leaps. And first it starts with the baby steps, right? Your baby steps turn into giant leaps. And so that's really what it was. It was accumulation of me taking these fearful steps in faith. And through a period of time, I just learned that, wow, it's okay. And then you kind of expand your comfort zone. So I would say it was more a series of baby steps rather than one massive giant leap that made the difference for me.
I love that. I talk about 1%. Because everyone wants to be like, well, I'm here now and I want to be, 180 degrees turned around like tomorrow. In transformation, like it has to happen immediately, overnight. I have to be there tomorrow. And I lean so much on just this idea of 1%. Like, how can I be 1% less fearful today? How can I be 1%, more bold and more courageous today? How can I embody just 1% more confidence today? Because it is, when you add up those little 1%, all of a sudden you look back and you're like, holy shit, I'm a completely different person. But it doesn't happen in an instant.
Totally. And I think most people give up because these massive leaps are too daunting and it's too overwhelming. So they never get started. It's like a million baby steps in the right direction, or in any direction actually, is much better than a million hours spent in fear, feeling paralyzed, having this perfection paralysis, being like, I don't know what to do. And because when you trust yourself and you have that worthiness and confidence as well, you can trust whatever decision you make. You can always pivot from that point too, right? So it's like you can always make these decisions on the spot.
And I think, it doesn't help. And I know you and I are both incredibly transparent online, but it doesn't help that the people on social media are only also sharing their highlight reels. So it's like, I get a lot when I did my Kickstarter a few years ago, they're like, well, you made it look so easy. You just put your project up and it was like, it was funded. And it's like, but you didn't see the 10 hours a day, 7 days a week that I was putting into like pushing and doing and taking action and all these things. And so talk to me a little bit about how you have used social media to like be transparent about that so that people feel like it's a more approachable subject, I guess.
Right. I think just for myself, I've gotten to that place in my life where I stopped trying to prove things a long time ago. So it's not even a conscious, it is and it isn't, right? Like it's a conscious effort to be transparent. And I have a very hard time not showing up as myself. I have a very hard time not being who I am in that moment. I know that, but that being said, I won't share anything I haven't personally processed. But once I really started seeing that, like Marianne Williams said, when we embrace our own truth, when we step into our own life, we give others the permission to do the same. And so I just realized, through doing all of this kind of shadow work and fear work and pain work for all of these years, that I was being of greatest service, giving people permission to be who they are, where they are, when they are. And that all starts with me. So that's just, I try and just, whenever I'm posting something, I'm always asking myself, am I here to am I posting to give something or to get something? And if I'm posting to get something from someone else, I'll always refrain and just come from that place of like service and truth, not just to myself, but to others.
Awesome. Cool. So when you are in these transitionary periods where you're leaping and you're turning that commitment into a physical, tangible reality, what do you feel like is the easiest part of that transformation and that transition for you?
Well, the easiest part now, because I've done the same thing over and over again and learned that it's, now for me, whenever a problem arises, I can say beyond a shadow of doubt, even if I haven't transformed it in that moment, I'm already instantaneously saying, oh, something good is beyond this. Like as soon as resistance shows up, I'm like, wow, something great is on its way. But that came over exercising that muscle and being able to like really trial and error. So for me, that's probably the easiest thing, is to be able to say, okay, well, I've been here so many times before, and I've been felt paralyzed by fear, and all of my leaps of faith have never proven me wrong. And that's kind of the easiest part now, because I know no matter where I am and no matter what my external circumstances are presenting in the moment, I know that I can always, through internal alignment, create the new reality. So that feels really good to me.
Awesome. And is there a part that still is a little sticky for you that's like difficult? Because I know that for me, you know, each leap has a similar step, like a similar process and all these things. And, you know, I look back at moving to LA and I'm like, oh, no big deal. Like now looking back on it, that's so easy. And now I'm in the midst of the book launch and I'm like, oh my God. Right. So like each time it seems like I kind of bump up against similar things or find resistance. So what's the hardest part of that transition then for you?
I think, you know, it's a double-edged sword, because when you're aware of something, you can change it, but the awareness in and of itself can be painful, right? And no matter how much you do it, or like I'm always saying, and I think you and I have said this to each other, and we're like, oh my God, we teach this stuff and you still have to go through it. You know, it's not like you get exempt from resistance. And when you're consistently pushing your comfort zones, it's uncomfortable no matter what level you're at, right? So for me, I talk about, you know, now, for example, I'll talk about like if I'm in resistance, I have this thing calling forcing myself into flow. I know flow is where my genius happens. And sometimes when my resistance is so strong, I'm either in overwhelm, or I'll get tired, I'll get this like shiny object syndrome, and I'll want to do everything other than what I need to be doing. But I'll find that I'll use my masculine energy to force myself into that feminine flow, and it becomes easier at that point. But yeah, it's like the resistance is always the tough part. Because it's always feeling like resistance, no matter where you are in the process.
Totally. So I don't know, is there like one leap that's kind of coming to mind for you right now? Because I'm going to ask a question, and I think it's like, it works better for a specific leap. So if you have one in mind.
Totally. Yeah. When I was 25 years old, I decided to follow my soul for 2 years. So that was the biggest leap of faith that I'd ever had, and never flown before. I'd never taken a trip by myself before. And I just decided that I was going to travel. And from that moment forward, it was going to be my journey of fear versus faith for almost 2 years. So that's probably the most significant leap that I've made so far.
Awesome. So what was the biggest thing that you learned during that process of like really leaning on your faith?
That I think, you know, when you're making that leap, I think I just said it even, you know, your external circumstances don't always match up with your internal desires straight away. And through that faith, at the time, and most times, especially when you're in such massive fear mode, it's going to take that equal amount of faith, right? So nothing will be showing to you that it's possible, and yet through faith anything is possible. Miracles will appear in ways that you never knew possible, but you have to have that faith. There is that point between the known and the unknown where you just have to take that leap, and in that leap, faith is truly what bridges that gap. And literally miracles will happen if you just hold on to it long enough.
Awesome. So what is your like big vision for Ashley Cooper and what you're creating in the world and who you're serving? Like, what is the big, massive thing?
I truly want to be able to empower 1 million men and women who are empaths and light workers and people who truly want to make a difference in the world. I want to empower and inspire them to have the worthiness they need and the confidence they need to actually make their impact. For us to all actually come together, you know, in service of collaboration over competition, and actually make this world a better place together. So.
Awesome. So what are you currently struggling with anything in terms of creating that as your reality?
Am I currently struggling with anything? I would say that it's funny because no matter how much work you do on yourself, it's always like this next layer of It's like, I feel like, for example, on one level, I've learned my enoughness and my worthiness and my confidence, and I've come so far. And yet, no matter where I am in my work, there's always a new lesson about my enoughness. There's a new lesson about my worthiness, which is also brilliant because that's what I'm teaching. So of course I need to be a student first and a teacher second. So I'm always learning new levels of love for myself. Even in, social media, we know that you could even be, for example, feel rejection or have this fear of rejection or fear of putting yourself out there. But even on a deeper level lately, it's amazing to go from like the bullied girl I was to like, people can say something now, but I'm so rooted in my truth that it's like any rejection of another person is just leading me to love of myself. But I'm always going into deeper layers of that.
Beautiful. Yeah, I totally, as I was writing the book, I was like, man, this is a leap. Like, I'm really in the midst of a leap right now. Like, why do I have to go through this again? I'm supposed to be the expert. Aren't I supposed to just know this stuff? Like, universe, why are you putting me through this again? Can't I just like be there already?
Yeah, totally. And it's funny because I've been going through a challenge in my own life right now that I've been processing. And I was talking to a friend the other day and they're like, well, that's the lesson here. And I'm like, that I'm enough and that I'm worthy. It's like, it's just always. And yet the beautiful thing is something that used to maybe take me down for a year, 2 years, for 3 years, now might take me down for an hour, 2 hours a day, maybe maximum a week, but I'll be moving through it so much quicker. And I think that's really the beauty of doing this work and seeing results, right?
Yeah. And I talk about this too, the idea of that resiliency of being able to like be knocked down and jump back up. And, and yeah, in the beginning, it takes us a little longer. But then the more that you just continue applying the work and continuing to show up and being in your truth and all those things, the lifespan gets shorter and shorter and shorter. And yes, there are some bigger things that might take you down for a longer period of time again, but it's really relying back on those practices and the healing and all of that stuff that helps you have that muscle, that strength to get up again and to leap again and to put yourself out there again and to face rejection again. It's so important.
Oh, for sure. And I truly think like if I had a superhero skill at the moment, it's the ability to see the possibility and the pain, the opportunity and obstacles, to be able to see the faith even when fear is present, to be able to be in all of this stuff and know that you are basically an alchemist, right? That's a lot of what I talk about a lot, and I know you do too. It's like the ability to hold space for it all and to see the possibility when none is showing itself to you, and to have that faith and belief in yourself, even to have that power. It's really cool.
So some people might call that like naivete, like, right. Oh, seeing possibility in, destruction or whatever. Like that's naive. That's silly. How do you feel about that?
That people might think that was silly?
Like if someone were to come to you and be like, you're naive, seeing possibility in destruction, like that's ridiculous. What's your take on that?
Well, for me, I can only ever teach with conviction what I've experienced myself. And I can only say, no matter what I've experienced, whether it being having like tried to take my life when I was 8 and all of the things that have ever happened to me, I actually can stand with total certainty as a 38-year-old woman now that was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. And there is always possibility in anything. Wherever there is dark, there is light. Faith and fear are two sides of the same coin. You just can't convince me of otherwise. But when we get trapped in that story, when we get trapped in the inability to see it, of course, it's not going to present itself, right? So you need to have a willingness and an openness to see that which cannot be seen and have that faith to actually have that transformation.
God, you're good. You get told that enough? Because like maybe I should just start calling you every day and be like, man, Ashley,
I'm always your girlfriend, The conversation we have could be a podcast.
That is actually pretty true. So tell everyone listening, if they want to hear more of your brilliance on a regular basis, where do they find you?
Amazing. Thank you. They can either follow me on my Instagram, which is Ashley Cooper, ASHLEYXOX, on my Facebook page. And actually, where else? You could just go to my Facebook page or my Instagram and find me there. And then all of the things that I'm working on, from my retreats to my courses to everything, is always popping up there. So those are the two best places.
she's running an amazing retreat in Bali, and I tell you that you should find out more information and go, but it's already sold out.
It's sold out, but I'll be doing another for sure. It's so amazing. There's nothing more powerful than in-person work, and really being able to go super deep, and taking really people out of that experience of, it's disconnecting them from their life and reconnecting them with themselves so they can go back with power. It's just so incredible to see.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, thank you for all of your insights as usual. I feel like there might be another podcast with us in the nearest future. There's going to be some, I mean, we talk every week. There's going to be some yeah.
Totally. The evolution. As we make more leaps, there'll be more stuff coming up.
Yeah. Although I'm pretty good with the leap I'm in right now. I am not calling in any new leaps at this point. I'm good with one for right now, at least through the end of the year.
That's good. You're stable, so I'll get ready to make one so you can support me.
Actually, that would be brilliant. Can we make that agreement?
Yeah.
When I'm leaping, you're good, and when you're leaping, I'm good, and we can just have that
Totally. That's what friends are for.
So funny. Awesome. Well, thank you for your insights and your brilliance. Everyone go find Ashley on Instagram and Facebook. And have a great day, and go practice and exercise your faith muscle today in some way. So.
Thank you.
Thank you again for joining me for another fantastic episode of Permission to Leap. If you're looking to take your next big leap, be sure to check out my book that guides you through the 6 phases of the leap process at http://permissiontoleap.today. My book will support you in moving through your leap with more clarity and ease, because there needs to be more people like you living an inspired life and making a positive difference in the world. Much love today and always. I will catch you on the next episode of Permission to Leap.